Okay, I'm going to get started this morning by just welcoming all of you guys. Sawadee Krap. Sawadee Krap. Nice to see all of you guys this morning. Welcome to everyone here, and welcome to anyone who's joining us online as well. Today is our Pali Canon and English study group, which I'll explain to you guys what that is after our meditation, because we start each class with a meditation. The Buddha taught to train your mind and move to the enlightened mental state, and through training of your mind, you'll be able to experience this mental state where the mind is completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. The mind no longer experiences any discontent feelings. So meditation is part of that training, but you wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. So that's why we study other things besides just meditation. It's not just meditation that you would need. You couldn't meditate your way to enlightenment. You would need meditation, and that's part of the training, but there's other things that you need to learn as well. So we'll start with meditation, and then I'll explain to you guys what this Pali Canon and English study group is. The way that we start with our meditation is we start with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. And I see many of you guys have the chanting sheet. If you would like to see the chants that I'm going to use, they're over there on the cabinet on a laminated sheet. You're welcome to help yourself. For anyone who's joining us online, you can get this from our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. Click on free books and scroll down towards the bottom. You'll see it there. These chants are something that we use in order to ease our mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory, that every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally, because everything that he taught was oral. They didn't write things down during his lifetime because the technology didn't exist during that time frame to be able to write things down. So he just spoke orally. And then every 2 weeks, his students would recite his teachings verbally in order to commit them to memory. And this is how they were able to practice the teachings. So because of the origins of chanting, you can see that there isn't anything mystical or magical about chanting. It isn't a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. The teachings of the Buddha aren't designed to do those kinds of things. He never taught any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer. This isn't part of the teachings of the Buddha. Even if you've been exposed to those kinds of things before, you can see in his original teachings that he never did any of those things. So I use chanting as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. If you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death, because if you learn from a teacher who help you move from the anger and the sadness and the frustration and agitation and annoyance and into this peaceful and joyful mental state, and this teacher didn't want anything or expect anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person as well. And also, an individual who's gotten to enlightenment, which a Buddha has gotten to enlightenment, they're not going to have ego to walk around and say, here, chant these things to me out of respect for me. This would be arrogance and ego and putting yourself above other people. So the Buddha wouldn't have done that. So I'm almost certain that these chants came from his students either during his life or after his death. So if you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to, and you'll understand why I actually do the chanting. After I do the chanting, I'm going to be providing you some guidance in the meditation. While we're actually meditating, I'll be guiding you and instructing you for a period of time. But then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just all meditating together. Everyone here at the temple and anyone who's joining us online, we can just all be meditating at the same time together. Then we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting, and then that's where I'll start today's class. In terms of your body positioning for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And these are 4 positions that you would learn in your journey to enlightenment, because your body can't be in the same position all the time. You're going to need these different positions at different times. Oftentimes people are learning in the seated position, so I'll share that with you and kind of give you a little bit of guidance on that to help you kind of get situated with the seated position. But understand there's these 4 other positions. And also understand that anything that I share with you about the seated position, it's just a suggestion. It's just something that you might consider, because there isn't just one way to sit. What's important is that you find what's comfortable for you, and everybody's going to find something different that is comfortable. So what I share with you is just guidance or suggestions of things that you might consider. So if you're sitting on the floor, you might sit with some cushions under your rear. This will help kind of soften your seat a little bit. And then for some people, they like to bring their legs together in the cross leg position. And if you do this, you would like to just do it lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, this will impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. So you would like your lower legs to just kind of be lightly crossed crossed together. Some people like to put their legs off the mat, which gets their hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, again, allowing the circulation to flow. So that might be something that you consider. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it. But again, it's not about everyone doing it the same way. This isn't actually possible. You might consider putting your palms on your thighs or on your knees. Some people like to put their palms up or rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you could really choose any of those situations, whatever's most comfortable for you. And for anybody who's in a chair, or maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair or something like this, you can also sit however you're comfortable. Some people like to sit with their feet flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles, but you can see me, I'm sitting in a chair with my legs crossed, so this is an option for you as well. And then the same thing with anyone in a chair, you can just put your hands and arms wherever you're comfortable. With your upper body, you would like this to be erect, with the sternum up and the shoulders back. It'll help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. And you would like your mind to be attentive and alert while you're training it. So by having the sternum up and the shoulders back, it'll tend to keep the mind more attentive and alert. It also makes it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So if you'd like to sit with your sternum up and your shoulders back, this will surely help you during the meditation. So I'm going to ease us into the meditation with some chanting. Again, you guys are welcome to join in, and then I'll come back in with some guidance to help you. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakewa Putang Mahakewanang Apiwate Savakato Mahakewata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakewato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Wat Tung Mahakawanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakawata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusarang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys. Welcome to everyone here at the temple. Welcome to everyone online as well. Thank you for joining this morning and being interested to learn the teachings of the Buddha. As I was mentioning at the beginning, our class today is called the Pali Canon and English Study Group, which I'll explain to you guys what that is here in a moment. First, let me just start with sharing that what the Buddha taught is a path to training the mind and helping you to eradicate certain pollutions that he found in the mind. He discovered certain pollutions within his own mind, and he figured out the tools and the techniques of how to eliminate those out of his mind to be able to get to this enlightened mental state. What the enlightened mental state is something that you can attain in this life, where your mind has been completely purified. Your mind is no longer experiencing any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you're experiencing peace, calm, serenity, and contentedness with joy. And this is a permanent mental state that you'll be experiencing long into the future. You'll notice that your mind is focused. You'll have concentration and clarity and deep memory, because with those pollutions out of your mind will be performing more optimally. You'll even notice that your personal, professional relationships are at ease and they're really blossoming, because right now you might have a certain amount of bitterness and harshness and hostility in some of your relationships, even maybe some resentment. And this is actually coming from one's own mind, and you can actually purify the mind of this and get to the point where the mind's completely peaceful and joyful. You'll notice that you're not even in a bad mood anymore. By the time you get to enlightenment, it's physically impossible for you to experience a bad mood, because the causes and conditions of these things have been uprooted and eliminated from the mind. Oftentimes people think that they're getting angry or frustrated or irritated or annoyed or any of these other feelings like stress and anxiety. They think it's coming from other people. Maybe you think that right now. Maybe you think other people make you angry, or that your parents or siblings are frustrating you or agitating you, or your boss is annoying or something like this. This isn't actually true. This is the lack of wisdom that the unenlightened mind has, is that it goes around the world thinking that other people are causing you to experience these feelings, and because of this you continue to experience it over and over and over again. But in the teachings of the Buddha, he helps you to understand in a way that you can independently verify that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And by understanding what's causing these feelings, then you can actually eliminate those causes, so that therefore you will eliminate the feelings, that you'll no longer experience that anger and frustration and all those other discontent feelings. So a student on the path to enlightenment is learning and growing and developing and cultivating wisdom through learning, examining, and investigating teachings, not believing the teachings. There's no belief in the teachings of the Buddha. You're not believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. Instead, you're learning, examining, and investigating teachings now to intellectually understand them. You're reflecting on those teachings to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. And then you're practicing his teachings, integrating the tools and techniques that he taught into your day-to-day life so that you can transform your mind through training of the mind. And because you're learning, reflecting, and practicing now in this life, you actually see the results now in this life. Because you know in situations where you were once angry or frustrated or agitated or some other feeling, and when you learn and practice these teachings and you experience those same situations and your mind is peaceful and joyful, you'll know that it's these teachings that are guiding you to that mental state. So most students, when they start out to learn these teachings, they start out with the foundational teachings. And we have various courses and programs and things like this that will help you to build that foundation. I suggest that you start with this book. It's called Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. You can actually get this for free on our website. This is the first book of our book series. You can download it for free. You can take it and go print it if you like. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can order it on Amazon. And this is where most people start. And we have a program that meets each Sunday and Wednesday where I gradually go through each individual chapter of this book over a 7-month period, helping you guys to understand how to develop a foundation in the path to enlightenment. And there's other courses and retreats that can help you to do that in a shorter period of time. So that's where most people start. And tomorrow is our group learning program. If you would like to join for that, we're going to be in chapter 23 because we're coming towards the end of the program and we're going to be restarting it from the very beginning. People can attend here at the temple, but also I live stream and record all of our classes. So no matter where you are in the world, you can attend classes here through Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. You can attend any of these ways, and you can attend live if you like, but they're also recorded. So if you can't attend live, you can actually listen through the recording at any time that you feel like you would like to watch the recording, either on Facebook, YouTube, or our podcast. You can listen to it there as well. So that's where I suggest people start. Then as people develop an understanding of the teachings, they will oftentimes come to a program like this called the Pali Canon in English Study Group, where it's more of a study group fashion, where we're actually studying the original words of the Buddha. Everything that I teach is based on the original words of the Buddha so that you can see what did he teach and what he didn't teach. And you don't believe me. Don't ever believe anything I say. Don't believe what I write in books, but instead learn it, reflect on it, independently verify it, and practice it. And that's where you're going to see the real results to the improvement to the condition of the mind. But this particular program, because it's more of a study group, it's not where someone will typically start in their journey to enlightenment. But I know many of you guys, this is your first time here, and that's okay, because you'll learn plenty here today, but just understand that that's not where someone will typically start. They will typically start in our other programs, but you'll learn plenty today in our program today. But here, this is more of a study group, where the other programs that I teach, it's more of a traditional style of learning where I will teach for 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then I'll open up to questions. And then I'll teach another 15 or 20, 30 minutes and open up to questions. Where today, for the Pali Canon in English study group, what we do is I invite volunteers either here at the temple or online in Zoom to be able to read a particular chapter from this book series, that we have 13 books. And while people usually start in the first book, this particular program of the Pali Canon and English Study Group, we study volumes 2 through 13 over the course of a year and a half. And we are now in volume 9, which volume 9 is titled The Six Sense Bases. This is a collection of teachings related to the six sense bases, which you guys will understand what that is as we talk here in a bit. But the way this program works is I invite volunteers here at the temple or online to read a chapter. And these chapters are actually quite small. You can see this one is barely a half a page here, because what you have is you have the words of the Buddha. You have a reference that takes you back to his original teachings. The Pali Canon is 45 volumes of books that are this big. These are the original words of the Buddha, and that's the source of his teachings, the largest, most complete collection of his teachings that we have. And this reference goes back to that, so you can see that this is an excerpt. Then underneath of that, you have words from me that are helping you understand how to implement this into your day-to-day life and how to get the most benefit out of what the Buddha is teaching you here. So a student would end up reading, as part of this program, they would read this, right? Maybe before class or after class, they might have also read my words as well. But here in class, what we do is I invite people to actually read this particular chapter. Then I will share some teachings on that. Then I will open up to any questions that you guys have here or that anybody has online. If you would like to volunteer to read here, or you'd like to read on, or you'd like to ask questions here at the temple, if you could use the microphones in the white bowl there in the center of the room, because that way the people online will be able to hear you. All you need to do is get a microphone, press the gray button. You're going to see the lights come on, and you just hold it up to your chin. We'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, the people online won't be able to hear you. And then for anyone online, if you would like to volunteer to read in Zoom, just electronically raise your hand and then unmute your microphone, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you throughout the live stream as well. And the same thing goes for when we get to the question period. If you guys could use the microphones here for the questions, that'd be great. In fact, if you get a microphone, you can just keep it with you, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can share the microphone. For anybody who's online, if you have questions, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section. I'll be able to answer that for you. Or if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and I'll be able to answer your question that way. So here, this is a chapter that I'm inviting you guys to read, but let me just first talk a little bit about the six sense bases. The six sense bases, or what the Buddha is helping you to understand, is the driver behind what we call sensual desire. The Buddha didn't teach you the way the world should be, and that if people follow rules and commandments, the world will become a better place. He didn't do that. He taught you the way the world is. He's helping you to understand the way the world is. Mostly what he's teaching you is how your mind functions, so that by you understanding how your mind functions, then you can actually train it so that it's not all upset and frustrated and agitated or annoyed. It can be peaceful and joyful. So one of the things that he's teaching you with sensual desire in the six sense bases is what the six sense bases are the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind itself. These are six senses where you experience contact through these sense bases. And when you have what's called sensual desire in your mind, which every unenlightened being does, then your mind is longing, yearning through your sense bases, wanting and expecting agreeable contact. And when you experience agreeable contact through your sense bases, you get pleasant feelings. You get happy, excited, elated, thrilled, euphoria. But when you experience disagreeable contact through your sense bases, you experience painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, things like this. And what's underlying this, what sensual desire is we refer to it as craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations. So let me give you an example. If you were at a stoplight and somebody pulled up next to you with some music that you thought was particularly good, you were like, oh, wow, that is so good. I really like that music. And you start dancing around. You're getting agreeable contact through the ear, and your mind sees this music as agreeable, and you get so happy and so excited as you're dancing in your seat. Well, now when you go to the next light, someone else pulls up to you with a different type of music, and you hear through your ear a sound that your mind considers to be disagreeable. And now you're frustrated or you're agitated or annoyed. It's not that music that's causing it. And it's not the person who's playing the music that's causing you to be frustrated. What's causing you to be frustrated is your sensual desire, the craving, the desire, the craving permanently agreeable contact through your senses, so that you can get those pleasant feelings. And you can independently verify this because you've probably had this experience. You might have been walking down the street where you smelt flowers or someone's perfume, and that was an agreeable odor coming through your nose. But then maybe you walked a couple other steps and you smelt the sewer. And now maybe you were repulsed by it and you were angry or frustrated, like, oh God, that's so horrible. Or maybe you taste a certain food on your tongue, maybe like chocolate. And it's like, oh wow, that is so delicious. But now maybe you taste something else and you're like, oh, that's horrible, right? This is your mind having sensual desire, where you see things as agreeable and you see things as disagreeable that are coming through your sense bases. And the Buddha is helping you to be able to see this, because what he's going to teach you as part of his teachings is that you need to restrain your mind, not to allow the mind to long and yearn through these sense bases. As long as your mind keeps craving permanently agreeable contact, not realizing that you live in an impermanent world, you will continue to struggle and have difficulties and challenges in life, because the mind in the unenlightened state is craving permanently agreeable contact. But you live in an impermanent world. Everything around you is constantly changing. So if you keep craving permanently agreeable contact, some situations you're going to be happy, some situations you're going to be sad or frustrated. Maybe you look outside and you see the sun. You're so happy and so excited because that's agreeable to you. But then when it rains, now you're frustrated or agitated or annoyed. This is the mind wanting permanence when everything around you is impermanent. If you're in a relationship with a boyfriend or girlfriend, you might be so happy or excited when you guys first get together. But then when you guys break up, maybe you're sad or frustrated. It's not the love that's causing this. It's the mind craving permanence and wanting this person to be permanent in your life. So you can transform all of this. You can train your mind to not do this, where you can have loving, sustaining, fulfilling relationships, but your mind isn't discontent. You aren't frustrated. You aren't agitated. Maybe if you're with your boyfriend or girlfriend or your husband or wife, maybe you feel so happy and excited. But then maybe when they go on vacation, or maybe when they go on a business trip, or they have to go away for a couple of weeks, maybe you miss them, or you feel lonely, or you feel bored. This isn't your love. This is the mind having attachment. Your feelings are attached to this person. If they're with you, you're happy. But if they're not with you, you're sad or frustrated or missing them or lonely or bored. This is the mind craving permanence. And you live in an impermanent world. Everything around you is impermanent. So the Buddha is helping you to be able to see through the six sense bases and understanding sensual desire, that this is what your mind's doing. So here, if somebody would like to read this, I'll walk you through this after someone reads it. Would somebody here at the temple or someone online in Zoom like to be able to read this first chapter for us? And then I'll walk you through it, helping you to understand it even further than what the Buddha is sharing. Yes, ma'am. Oh, someone online? Oh, okay. Chris. All right, sir. Go ahead.
Only with sense control that one can fulfill the four foundations of mindfulness. Monks, save one and not give up six things. He cannot become one who resides in reflecting on the body as body. What six? Excitement in activity, excitement in gossip, excitement in sleep, excitement in company, being without a guard on the sense doors, and immoderate in eating. Early monks, save one and not give up these six. He cannot become one who resides in reflecting on the body as body, but one surely can if one gives up these six.
Okay, thank you, Chris. So first, let me explain what the four foundations of mindfulness are, because what the Buddha is saying is that if you eliminate all of these, then you'll be able to develop the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And if you don't eliminate these, then you're not going to be able to develop the 4 foundations of mindfulness. The 4 foundations of mindfulness are something that explains to you the life cycle of what your mind is going to experience when you have discontentedness. And you're going to need to become aware of these 4 things. Your mind needs to be aware of these 4 things. First is called bodily sensations. That's where he's saying the body is the body. That before you get angry, before you get frustrated or sad or irritated or annoyed or lonely or bored or even happy or excited or any of these other conditioned feelings where your mind's basing its feelings on some condition, there's going to be bodily sensations first. You may or may not be aware of them right now, that there's this tingling in the body before you get angry, maybe tightening in your chest, tightening in your throat, there's heat in your face, there's pressure in your skull. These are the bodily sensations associated with anger. Your mind hasn't become angry yet, but it's starting to arise, and it's first going to present itself as bodily sensations. This is going to help you because when you understand that, you can actually cut that off and let it go at the bodily sensations before your mind becomes angry. This is like if you were in a boat going from Canada to the UK, you would like to prevent the water from ever coming into the boat, because once the water gets into the boat, you've got a real problem to deal with. So you'd like to prevent these conditioned feelings from coming into the mind. You're not suppressing your feelings or repressing them. You're actually cutting them off and eliminating them before it actually forms in the mind, because that bodily sensation is like an early warning system alerting you that your mind is about to become discontent. So if you can be aware with your mindfulness that this bodily sensation is occurring, where it's starting to arise up in the body, you can cut it off and let it go before your mind ever gets angry. That's why during the meditation, we were focused on the breath. And when the mind moves off the breath, you cut it off and let it go and come back to the breath. You're training your mind to let go, because your unenlightened mind doesn't know how to do that because it craves permanence. It wants things to be permanent. So if 10, 15, 20 times during your meditation, you had to let go, let go, let go, this is really good because it's training your mind to let go. So that now in day-to-day life, if you're aware of your mind and you notice those bodily sensations coming, you can let go. But if you haven't been training your mind to do that, you can't let go. That's why when you see something, when you hear something, when you smell something, when you taste something, when something comes in contact with the body or some thought or idea comes through the mind, you can't let go. So that boyfriend or girlfriend that you were with and you guys broke up, you might have been lonely or bored or angry or frustrated for many days or maybe several weeks or even months because your mind couldn't let go. But eventually, you must have let go. You were like, you know what? If he wants to be with someone else, so be it. And you let go. Or if she wants to move to another part of the world, so be it. And you let go. And when you let go, that's when you regained your peace and your joy. You weren't angry and frustrated, agitated any longer, right? You weren't lonely and bored and missing this person. You went on with your life. So the breathing mindfulness meditation and other things that the Buddha taught too is training your mind to let go. But you need to be aware that there's a rising of discontentedness. That's what the 4 foundations of mindfulness are helping you to do. So the first foundation is being aware of the bodily sensations. And this is developed through meditation and through practicing in day-to-day life. Then the next foundation is called feelings. When your mind is angry, when your mind is angry, frustrated, agitated, annoyed, any of these other discontent feelings, you need to be aware that that's the case. You would like to catch it as soon as possible as the bodily sensations, but between now and enlightenment, you're going to get some discontent feelings. It's going to happen. So you need to be aware when it is happening so that then you can cut it off there. If you didn't cut it off as a bodily sensation, you need to cut it off as a feeling. And if you miss it there, then it's going to start affecting the condition of your mind. This is the third foundation of mindfulness. This is where, like, have you ever been grumpy or irritable for like a couple of hours or like a day or two, or maybe even a week or two? Of course you have, right? Many of us have, because we didn't understand the teachings of the Buddha. So you were maybe grumpy and irritable for a few hours or a few days, or maybe even a week or two. That's the third foundation of mindfulness. It's called the condition of the mind. And then the fourth one is called mental objects. There's certain mental objects that are in your mind, which are deeply rooted containers. Like in this example, it's ill will, where the mind has this deeply rooted container of ill will. Like right now, you don't feel any anger or frustration perhaps. But if one of your cravings get triggered, if one of your central desires get triggered, your anger can arise. That's because there's this deeply rooted container in the mind of ill will. And there's others as well, but the mind ultimately needs to develop awareness of all four of these things: the bodily sensations, the feelings, the condition of the mind, and the mental objects, because this is what's going to help you to purify your mind. Without the understanding of what the four foundations of mindfulness are, and without having developed them within your own mind, you wouldn't be able to see the unwholesome qualities in your mind to be able to eliminate them. And you wouldn't be able to see the wholesome qualities in your mind in order to be able to support them and encourage them and allow them to continue to grow and develop within your own mind. So the four foundations of mindfulness are vital in order to be able to get to enlightenment. So that's why the Buddha is saying that without these 6 things having been eliminated, you wouldn't be able to develop the four foundations of mindfulness. He's cluing you in like, hey, in order to get to enlightenment in other discourses, he helps you to see that you need the four foundations of mindfulness. But then here he's saying you're not going to be able to develop those unless you're able to eliminate these 6 things, which is excitement and activity. What he's talking about here is conditioned pleasant feelings related to some activity. What you can do in the enlightened state is you can enjoy an activity without conditioned pleasant feelings. The difference is that with a conditioned pleasant feeling, if you're doing some activity, let's just say, I don't know, say you're riding your bicycle, right? And you're having a really good time, or you're playing tennis, or maybe you're playing ping pong or some other activity. And you're doing this activity, if you get so excited, where your mind's so elated and so thrilled that you're doing this activity, well, then when you're not doing that activity, you're going to be bored. You're going to be frustrated or agitated because you're not doing that activity. So if you allow your mind to get conditioned pleasant feelings based on the condition that I'm going to ride my bicycle, or I'm going to play tennis, or I'm going to play ping pong or badminton or something like this, if you get pleasant feelings based on this thing, that means when you're not doing that thing and that thing isn't permanent, that means you're going to be frustrated, agitated, annoyed, feeling lonely or bored or some other discontent feeling. So you need to train your mind how to enjoy an activity and thoroughly enjoy it without clinging to it and wanting it to be permanent. So there's no harm in riding a bicycle or playing tennis or ping pong or badminton or any of these other things. You can play these things and have lots of fun doing it and enjoy it. But when it's over, and you move on to the next thing, right? And this is what you need to be able to learn how to do. And the Buddha is helping you to be able to see that is not having conditioned pleasant feelings based on some activity. And then excitement and gossip. Gossip is where you're like talking in negative and degrading ways about other people, where you're degrading them and diminishing their reputation. You might do this from time to time with people in your work environment. Sometimes in professional environments, people gossip about the boss, or they gossip about another coworker or something like this. Or maybe there's some celebrity that you gossip about, or some politician where people are degrading and diminishing that person. Well, that's really unwise for you to do, because those same people that you're gossiping to, when your back's turned, they're going to be gossiping about you. And now you're over here doing something else, and now people are gossiping and slandering about you. So if you take excitement, if you get excited about gossiping, that means there's a certain craving, desire, attachment. There's ill will in the mind where you wish this person harm, and there's a certain amount of conceit. Conceit is like arrogance. This is like where you're putting yourself above people and looking down on other people. You're judging other people. So it's important to eliminate any gossip or slander. Excitement and sleep. The same thing is, if you get so excited when it's time to sleep, this is the mind craving to have sleep and holding on to the sleep. So an individual needs to learn that, yes, I need to sleep and it's important to sleep, but I'm not going to cling to it and hold on to it and get so excited just because it's time to sleep. Excitement in company is like spending time with other people. Again, you can enjoy these things, but it's when you allow your mind to get conditioned pleasant feelings that it's going to hinder you from being able to develop the four foundations of mindfulness. And then being without a guard of the sense doors. This is the six sense bases. This is the whole reason why it's in this book. You've got the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, the body, and the mind itself. That if you're not guarding these, it's very easy for your mind to become discontent. I'll give you an example of this. That one time I was getting rid of coffee because I knew that caffeine wasn't good for my mind and it was creating some overactivity in the mind, and I was interested in getting rid of caffeine. And there was a period of time where I thought that I had gotten rid of the coffee. I went 8 weeks one time. It was like slowly but surely, 1 week, and then I had a coffee, 2 or 3 weeks, and then I had a coffee, 4, 5, 6 weeks, I had a coffee, and I got to 8 weeks, and I was like, wow, I've done this, man. I've gotten rid of this craving for coffee. I was feeling all proud of myself and conceitful, and I was walking down the street and I got a whiff of the odor of the coffee coming out of a coffee shop, because as you guys know, here in Thailand there's wonderful coffee everywhere, right? And I got this little whiff of coffee, and boom, I was into the store getting a coffee, right? And then that was the last coffee I ever had. It was just a little bit. I threw it away. But nonetheless, at that time, I didn't have a guard of my sense doors, that I was just walking down the street and boom, this odor got into my nose, and my mind really found it agreeable. And there I was waiting in line, even though I knew that this caffeine was going to cause headaches. It was going to cause dry mouth. It was going to cause difficulties for me. The craving was too strong, and I was right there ordering my coffee. So you need to have a guard of your sense bases. So once I realized what was happening, I started guarding my doors. I started guarding the sense bases. So when I was walking down the street, I would look to see if there was a coffee shop anywhere close by, and I would switch to the other side of the street and walk down the other side of the street. And I only had to do this for about 3 months or so, because after that, I'd gotten rid of the craving. And now I can go to a coffee shop, I can sit down with students, have conversations, and I have no interest in getting a coffee whatsoever. But during that period of time, when I had that central desire, when I had that craving, the mind was sensitive, and I needed to guard the doors. So you're going to need to guard your doorways, that when you hear your mom or dad complaining to you or putting their expectations on you, or you hear something from your boss or your coworkers, or you hear that music coming up when you're at the traffic light, you're going to need to guard your door, right? You're going to need to guard the ear and be like, okay, I don't need to get upset here. I don't need to get frustrated. This is just a temporary experience. This person sitting at the light next to me with this music, the light's going to turn green and they're going to go, right? I don't need to be frustrated and agitated just because this music is something that I don't typically listen to. This is an impermanent situation. So you can guard your doorways, all 6 of them, so that then it'll protect your mind. But you need to develop that through training and meditation and other teachings as well. And then immoderate in eating. The Buddha teaches you to eat in moderation. Whereas if we gorge ourselves on food, that's the sense base of the tongue wanting pleasure through food. When you get frustrated or you're sad or angry, you might turn to food in order to get pleasant feelings. And this just keeps the problem going around and around and around. Because the whole reason why you're in the painful feelings is because of craving, desire, attachment. If it wasn't for craving, desire, attachment, you wouldn't be experiencing those painful feelings. So if you turn to another craving, desire, attachment like food in order to get to pleasant feelings, then when you don't have that, your mind's going to end up back in the painful feelings. And it just keeps this cycle going all around and around and around. So what the Buddha teaches you is to eat in moderation, where he teaches you that if you feel hunger pains in the body, that you eat just enough in order to get rid of those hunger pains. That you're not gorging yourself and just eating and eating and eating. Because in some cultures, if you go to a restaurant, there's a huge amount of food that they give you. Here in Thailand, the portions tend to be kind of more moderate, right? Because they're practicing this, where other places maybe not. And if you sit down in front of a plate of food and you just eat all of it, maybe that's too much food for you. So you're going to need to be sure that you look at how you eat and you're not gorging yourself on food. And this is going to help your mind to be more peaceful and more joyful, because you're not turning to food for pleasant feelings, because that's just going to keep the problem going on and on and on and on. So let me know if you guys have any questions on this, because the Buddha is explaining to you to give up these things. Now remember, you can enjoy the things like activities and sleep and company with others and things like that, but you're not interested in taking excitement in these, because that means there's a conditioned feeling there that's going to ultimately lead to a painful feeling when those things aren't happening. So do you guys have any questions on this? Remember, those of you guys online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. So it looks like Chris has some questions here in Zoom. He's put them into the comment section. He says, will attending these online classes regularly and trying to concentrate on the teachings that are taught help a person practice singleness of mind? Yes, singleness of mind is where you're focused and you're concentrated and you're doing just one thing at a time. So when you're listening to a teacher speak, if you notice that your mind's wandering, then you like to cut that off and let it go and bring the mind back. And not only when you're listening to a teacher speak, but if you're watching TV, if you're watching a movie, if you're washing dishes, if you're in a business meeting, anytime your mind is not focused on the current activity, that means it's wandering and it's not focused and clear and practicing singleness of mind. So you like to cut that off and bring your mind back to whatever it is that you're doing. This is why some people lack concentration, because they're not practicing singleness of mind. Their mind's bouncing around from thing to thing to thing to thing. So you're going to need to actively train your mind, not just during meditation, but outside of meditation too. Getting to enlightenment, like I mentioned at the beginning, it's not just meditation. There's many other things that you need to be understanding and practicing in order to be able to get to enlightenment. And this is one of them, practicing singleness of mind and bringing your mind back to be focused and concentrated. And if you're doing this regularly, more and more, your mind will just do it. So what I was explaining to you about the 4 foundations of mindfulness, how you have anger arising, for an individual who's trained their mind, they don't have that. Anger never arises because they've eliminated the causes and conditions that are producing it. For someone who's practiced singleness of mind closely, their mind never wanders. They're focused and concentrated all the time because their mind is very well trained to be focused and concentrated at all times. But if you don't practice singleness of mind in all situations that you're in, your mind won't stay focused and concentrated. So you're going to need to apply the effort and energy to be able to actively train your mind in that way. Would there be improvement in singleness of mind for someone that has a scattered mind? If they train their mind, Chris, they would see improvement, right? So even if someone has a scattered mind now, the Buddha used to refer to it as a muddled mind. That's just where they're at now, but that's not permanent. That is an impermanent situation. You can transform that. Teacher David, I have heard you explain that mental discipline section from right concentration to right effort as opposed to in order. Can you explain why a person needs right concentration first, then right mindfulness and right effort, if that's the case? So by having concentration and focus, that's going to actually lead to being able to access wisdom. But the way I explain it, Chris, is I explain it that by having your mind calm, you will then have mindfulness or awareness of mind. Then when you have awareness of mind, your mind will be focused and concentrated. Then you can access your wisdom. So it's actually not that concentration leads to mindfulness. It's the other way around. It's that having mindfulness allows you to then apply right effort to eliminate unwholesome qualities and cultivate wholesome qualities. And that's where the right concentration is then arisen in the mind. So it's actually mindfulness, applying right effort, then leads to concentration. And then I describe it as keeping the mind calm leads to mindfulness or awareness of mind. That leads to concentration or focus or clarity. And then that leads to the ability to access your wisdom and make wise decisions and produce beneficial results in your life. Chris has lots of questions today. Let's see. Teacher David, is sleeping separately from one's wife guarding the sense doors? In some situations, you might decide to do that, but it doesn't mean you have to sleep that way all the time, right? Oftentimes we think that sleeping together with our life partner is a symbol of us being close and we love each other and so forth and so on. But if you do that every single day, your mind's going to get attached to it. And now when they go on a business trip, your mind has difficulty sleeping, or they have difficulty sleeping because your mind's attached. So you'd like to introduce some impermanence where sometimes you sleep together and sometimes you sleep apart. And sleeping apart doesn't mean you're angry or frustrated with each other. Doesn't mean anything about the relationship. It doesn't say anything about the relationship itself. Where sometimes people think if you sleep separate as life partners, this means there's something wrong in your relationship. That's not the case. You're just choosing to train your mind and sleep separately making sure that the mind doesn't get attached to this activity, so that then you can actually be more peaceful and more joyful with each other. So for people who do sleep together regularly, I encourage you to consider sleeping separately, maybe once a week or twice a week, so that way you can kind of come and go and feel comfortable with that, and you don't allow your mind to get attached to it. Because if once your mind gets attached, if you're sleeping together, you'll feel happy, you'll feel excited, wow, we're in a great relationship. But then when you guys are away from each other, your mind's not going to feel that. You're going to experience painful feelings. So you can train your mind to be comfortable whether you're together, sleeping, or you're not. You can be happy and joyful and enjoy sleeping together, and you can enjoy sleeping alone. And both of these activities can be just fine for you. And could this be the sense base of the mind if a person is attached to being around the wife or talking to them? Yes. If it's talking to them, it's the ears, right? Because you hear a certain sound. Maybe you like their voice. Maybe you like the way they talk. And then there's the mind sense base involved as well. Wow, so many questions, Chris. That's great. Teacher David, is it more important to be immoderate in eating than it is to finish our food? Yes. Finishing your food is wise in terms of not wasting food, but that doesn't mean you have to do it all in one sitting, right? So if you have a certain amount of food, you could eat moderate amount of food and then use that food at a future time, because food can be preserved. So don't feel like you just have to gorge in order to eat your food. You can use it at a different time, so that way it doesn't go to waste. Okay, let me see if we have any questions on Facebook or YouTube. Hello, everyone. Good morning to all of you guys on the internet. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere else. So let's go to the next chapter, which is chapter 32. Is there someone who would like to read this chapter? Yes, ma'am. You would like to read, or you have a question? You just have to press the button to get the mic to turn on. If you press it and hold it, you'll see that the lights will come on. You just press the button and hold it. Mm-hmm.
I didn't read this
sure.
chapter, and I had a question, Master.
Oh, okay.
And I want to ask, how do I adjust when I sit in meditation? How do I change my mind to not attachment to the body feeling? Because the long time I sit, sometimes I can feel my leg, and is a pain on my back or leg or any other body in any body position. And this is a question: how do I change my mind to not focus on these feelings? And when I feel question 2 is when I...
Let me just answer the first one first.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So your question is about that you experience physical pain in the body during meditation, and you're wondering how to stop focusing on that. Okay. The best thing you can do is change your body positioning. Right? Because as long as you stay in that position where you experience physical pain, your mind's going to be experiencing pain. That physical pain is there for a reason. It's telling your mind like, hey, there's something wrong here. So if you're feeling pain in the knee or the hip or your back, there's some physical aspect of the body that is not comfortable. That's one of the reasons why the Buddha gave us 4 positions to meditate in, because your body can't be permanently comfortable in just one position, because that would be permanence, but you live in an impermanent world. So if you're uncomfortable in the seated position, you could kind of shift around a little bit while you're meditating to try to get more comfortable. But if that doesn't work, you can switch to a lying position. That's perfect for a body that is uncomfortable, because all the muscles are completely relaxed. You just lay on the floor face up. That's typically what people do. And you do the same exact thing with the mind that you're training the mind with, but the body's just in a different position. So that would be my suggestion to you: switch positions. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking. And there's specific ways to be able to learn these and be able to use them skillfully within your meditation practice.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You have answered my question too, because when I feel in this, a sound in my mind, in my brain, is, hey, it's something wrong. You must adjust your position.
Yes.
And I just confused what the position is right, or when I sit, I don't know, because I close my eyes, I don't know my my body or my back is still keep straight. I don't know where the position is wrong. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's important to remember that there isn't just one permanent fixed position for meditation, even in the seated position. Like that's how you're choosing to sit right now, but someone else could choose to sit a different way. This is impermanence. This is the impermanent nature of the world. Sometimes what people teach is there's just one position. Everyone has to do it exactly the same. Yeah. This would be permanence. And someone who's teaching that hasn't understood the very first teaching of the Buddha, which is the universal truth of impermanence. And sometimes people teach to breathe through the pain and just sit with the pain, invite the pain in, observe the pain, look at the pain, embrace the pain, right? People teach you these kinds of things. This is really unwise because the pain is there for a reason. It's an indication to the mind that, hey, the body is uncomfortable. Take action to fix this. And now a wise individual, noticing that their knee is about to explode, would change positions, right? Because you're not going to sit there, and you need to have loving kindness and compassion for this being. And it's not loving and kind and compassionate to allow this knee to continue to experience pain. So just switch your position, and then you can actually actively train the mind. One of the things that will help you understand this is that the mind is the boss, the body is the employee, right? You have to go through the employee to get to the boss. If the employees are angry and disgruntled, they're not going to take you to go see the boss. But also, if they're luxurious and lackadaisical and lazy and lethargic, they're not going to take you to go see the boss either. The employee needs to be comfortable. And when the employees are comfortable, they take you to go see the boss. So you need to go through this body in order to get to the mind. So you need to go through the employee to get to the boss. And that's how you're going to train their mind, is get the employee to be comfortable.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Did you say you would like to read this, or? No? Oh, okay. All right. Would somebody like to read this chapter? It's great. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah. You get a microphone. It's great if you're practicing English. You'd like to practice some English. Yeah. Yeah. You can sit wherever you like. Any of the microphones should work. You just need to turn it on. Oh, okay. You can ask your question too if you like.
Like last chapter you said about like dismiss all this feeling, and I do feel like when I'm alone and when I do something, I always hesitate, such as when I just getting to the store and I saw everybody just like a sitting position, and as the girl said, it's just like I feel some physical pain in my backbone, so I would just lay down, but I see this gentleman is laid down, and I just hesitate. I thought everyone there just sitting position, and I think, well, if I lay down, I'll embarrassed. But strange part is when I just in crowded with my friends and with my colleague, I was extremely confident people and always showing myself, and I don't know, it's that feeling to I want people to gaze me or just look what I behavior right now, and I don't know what this feeling comes off, and I don't have a clue about that, especially when I'm alone. I just become a quiet person, but on the other side, I'm just an extremely wild person.
Sure. Let me make sure I understand. Are you saying that when you're around your friends, you have certain worries about how they perceive you and how they look at you? Is that what you're
definitely
saying?
Not.
Okay.
It's just when I'm alone, I will concern about the people's opinion.
Oh, I see. Okay. So first off, it's important that when you're around other people, that you don't just conform to what everyone else is doing, right? Because that's what the mind will tend to do in the unenlightened state, is you'll come into a certain environment and you'll just conform to what everyone else is doing. An individual who's getting to enlightenment, they don't do that. They understand what's wise and unwise, and they do what's wise, despite what everyone else is doing. Because if you do what everyone else is doing in the world, people are killing and stealing and having sexual misconduct, lying, taking drugs and intoxicants. You're not interested in conforming to that. So you need to know what's wise and do what's wise. And that includes when you're coming to an environment like this. If the vast majority of people are sitting and that's uncomfortable for you, then don't sit. lie or stand or use a chair or something like that, because there's people here that lay down and do meditation too, because I invite them to do any position that they like. So you do what's wise for you, and not just in this environment, but every environment. If you're at work and people are being disrespectful and gossiping about the boss, that doesn't mean you have to do that. If you know that that's unwise, then choose not to do it. Okay, so that's the first one, is not conform to what other people choose to do. Know what's wise and unwise and do what's wise. The second thing is, what your mind has is something called personal existence view. This is the very first pollution out of the 10. The Buddha discovered 10. And what this is where the mind wants to be perceived by others in a certain way, where you're worried about their opinions and views of you. And what the mind does is it clings to your self-image, like the physical appearance, and it'll cling to certain identity in your mind, wanting other people to view you in a certain way. So like if you've ever been at a social situation and you spilled something on your clothing and you were embarrassed, this is because the mind wants other people to perceive you in a certain way. And if you're being perceived in the way you want to be perceived, you'll experience pleasant feelings. But if you're not being perceived the way you want to be perceived, you'll be frustrated or agitated or annoyed or some other discontent feeling. This is why, like when I was a kid, I used to get gel and mousse and run it through my hair and try to get every hair in exactly the right spot before I went to school, because I was worried about how people were going to perceive me, and I wanted every little hair in the right spot. So much so that I would oftentimes miss the school bus on the way to school, right? So you can experience these things. If you've ever looked in the mirror and you saw a pimple or a mole or a wrinkle or a gray hair, and you're like, oh my goodness, right? Or you've stood in front of your closet and you're like, who am I going to see today? And how do I want to look? Right? And you kind of think about the clothing that you want to wear because you want other people to perceive you a certain way. Or you put on certain clothes, you look in the mirror, and you're like, no, that's not how I want to look today. And then you put on other clothes and you're like, all right, yeah, this is good. Let's go outside with this. This is called personal existence view. And it happens with the self-image, but it's happening with the self-identity too. You might have a certain identity in your mind based on culture, ethnicity, sexual orientation, nationality, job, or occupation. Like, I am Chinese, or I am American, or I am a Brit, or I am Aussie, or I am a Canadian, or any of this I am. It can be like, I am a police officer. And now when you're doing that job, you feel really great. But then when you get injured or you retire and you're not doing that anymore, your mind is identifying with I am this. And now when you're not doing that job, you feel kind of lost or withdrawn, or you don't feel like a whole person. So there's certain things in your mind that you want other people to perceive you as. And now when you're at home alone, maybe you feel like you want people to view you as a social butterfly, maybe, perhaps, or I don't know, we'd have to talk more, and you'd have to look at this and figure this out as what is it that you're wanting other people to perceive you as. And when you're at home, you feel like they're not perceiving you that way, and now you feel uncomfortable. That's the personal existence view. And you can train your mind to eliminate this, but you need to understand more of the teachings in order to fully understand it, the entire path that the Buddha taught, which is the Eightfold Path. That's the core central teaching. And that's what I teach in these foundational texts, in these foundational courses and programs, is I give you all the foundation so that you can understand how to actively train your mind. But just kind of getting into the heart of what you're experiencing, that's what you're experiencing, is the personal existence view. And every unenlightened mind has this. So you will see that this is a common thing in society. And this is why people go out into the world oftentimes trying to look or appear a certain way to other people, either through physical appearance or through the way that their mind functions in the world. Because if you identify, like, what country are you from? Are you from China? Yeah. So if you identify as I am Chinese, which many of you guys might, right? When you're at a restaurant and someone 2 tables over is saying, all Chinese people are lovely and kind and friendly and warm and gentle, you're like, wow, they're talking about me. Okay, wow, right? But then 2 tables over, or maybe you see on the news people talking bad about Chinese people, degrading and disparaging. Now you're frustrated, right? Because they're talking about me. Well, no, they're not talking about you. It's just that your mind has adopted that identity, where you can understand this body was born on a land that is referred to as China, but your mind doesn't have to adopt that identity. You see the difference? Yeah. And that's where you get freedom. Because now if somebody says something positive about Chinese people, or they say something negative, your mind's unaffected either way. You can stay peaceful and joyful. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, yeah, thank you for choosing to read this.
Tends to be abandoned by religious training. Tends, monks should be abandoned by religious training. Here a monk, reflecting wisely, resides with the eye sense, the ear sense, the nose sense base restrained, the tongue sense base restrained, the body sense base restrained, the mind sense base restrained. While tamed, frustration and unrest, anxiety might arise in one who resides with the eye sense base unrestrained, the ear sense base unrestrained, and the nose sense base unrestrained, the tongue sense base unrestrained, the body sense base unrestrained, the mind sense base unrestrained. There are no taints, frustration, or unreset anxiety in one who resides with the sense-based restrained. These are called the taints that should be abandoned by restraining.
Okay, thank you, sir. So here, what the Buddha is explaining to you is that there's the sense bases that I was describing earlier, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, the body, and the mind itself. And that's longing, yearning. The mind itself, because of its central desire, is longing, yearning externally. This is where the mind wants more money. That'll fix everything. Let me get more money. So the mind will chase after that. Or, I know what I need. A new boyfriend or girlfriend. That'll fix everything in my life. Let me get one of those. Or I know what I need, more jewelry. Let me get some more jewelry or some more shoes. The mind is longing, yearning through the sense bases, thinking that something external is going to provide lasting satisfaction. So what the Buddha teaches you to do is restrain the mind. So that's why those 4 foundations of mindfulness are so important, because you need to be able to observe that the mind is longing, yearning through the sense bases. So at one time I used to have a lot of shoes because I was really into shoes. This is something that my mom used to have. So I kind of adopted this kind of thinking because I conformed to what was going on around me, which mom had all these shoes. So maybe I should have all these shoes too. So I used to have all these different pairs of shoes, right? Well, as I started training my mind in these teachings, I started observing what I was doing where my mind was longing, yearning. I could go to the mall and I could catch an eye or a glimpse of a pair of shoes, and man, I'd be right in there into the shoe store wanting to buy a pair of shoes, right? And I have, maybe 30 shoes at that time, maybe 30, 40, 50 shoes at home. What is one more pair of shoes going to do for me? But yet the mind was longing, yearning for these shoes. So you need to be observant of the mind and see how it longs and yearns for satisfaction externally, and you need to restrain the mind. If you've ever ridden a horse and you pull the reins back on a horse to get it to stop, this is what you need to do with your mind. Because as long as you keep allowing the mind to long and yearn and form its inner feelings based on something external, in some situations, you're going to get what you want. And you're going to be happy. In some situations, you're not going to get what you want. And you're going to be sad or frustrated. So if I went into the shoe store and they had my shoe size, man, I was so happy. Look at these new shoes I got. Man, I can't wait for people to see me walking around with these new shoes. Wow, this is going to be great. But if you go into the shoe store and they don't have your size, you might be frustrated or agitated or annoyed. What that's coming from is the mind being unrestrained. So that's what the Buddha is saying, is that when you don't restrain your mind, there's going to be frustration. There's going to be unrest or anxiety because the mind is unrestrained. So now when I walk past the shoe store, if my mind is unrestrained and I see those shoes, if I get my shoes, I'm happy. And if I don't, I'm frustrated or having stress or anxiety or irritation or annoyance. But when your mind is restrained, now, when you walk past the shoe store, you see the shoes, you're like, wow, those are some pretty cool shoes. But you know what? I don't need any shoes right now. The mind in the unenlightened state will want the shoes, but you don't need it, perhaps. And that's what you start learning how to do, is attending to your needs rather than chasing your wants. Because if you keep chasing your wants, it's like a never-ending list. Right? It's like an unquenchable thirst. Maybe you get out of college and you want $50,000 a year salary, and you work really hard to get to that $50,000, and you feel happy for a period of time. But then you want more. you won 70, and now you chase that for a while, and you're really frustrated and agitated chasing that 70,000, but eventually you get it, and now you're happy for a period of time, right? But then you want more, right? You want 90, you want 100, you want 120. The mind just keeps wanting more and more and more. It's like an unquenchable thirst. So you might be doing this with money, you might be doing this with shoes or other things in your life where it's almost like an unquenchable thirst where the mind continues to chase. And what the Buddha is teaching you to do is restrain the mind, pull it back. You need to learn how to make wise decisions about whether you need these pairs of shoes or whether you need this particular thing. So if you fulfill your needs, then you can be content, because it doesn't really take much to fulfill your needs, because you have very basic needs: food, clothing, shelter, medical care. That's it, right? Food, clothing, shelter, and medical care. That's really all you need to sustain your life. And you can do that for relatively inexpensively, particularly in a place like Thailand, right? You can fulfill these needs and now you can be content. But if your mind always wants something else, then you're never content with what you have. I don't know if you guys have this saying in your country. We usually say like the grass is always greener on the other side. Do you guys have this in China? Do you have this saying? You do, right? So it's like if you're on one side of the fence, you always think the grass is greener on the other side. So you always want to go to the other side. And then once you get there, you're like, whoa, this is actually the same color as the grass on the other side, right? So it's kind of like the mind. If it has a lot of wants, a lot of expectations, longing, yearning, whatever you have is never enough. It always wants more. So therefore, the mind is not content. So you need to get to the point where you're pursuing your needs: food, clothing, shelter, and medical care. And then, of course, you're going to build wealth. Of course, you're going to have other things beyond that. But you need to be able to not long and yearn and chase it and just fulfill your needs. And that's where the peace is. And that's what the Buddha is saying here. There are no taints, meaning pollutions, frustration, unrest, or anxiety in one who resides with the sense bases restrained. If you can restrain your mind, then you can be free of frustration and agitation. But when you're longing, yearning for something else, you can't be completely peaceful, because there's always something that you don't have, that you always want. So let me know if you guys have questions here. You have a question? If you get a microphone, that'd be great.
So if I have limited needs and I shouldn't chase more and more, so enough money for such limited needs, does it mean I should stop working?
That's not what that means.
Okay.
It means that if you're going to pursue increased levels of wealth, that you do that through wise decision making, and you don't form your feelings based on that. So a person can be enlightened and rich also. But the difference is that they're not going to base their feelings on it. They're going to make wise decisions. They're firstly going to make their money ethically and morally, so that they're not causing harm to others, and they're going to be doing it morally in a wise way. That's the first thing. Once they acquire their wealth, they're not going to be forming their feelings on that, and they're not going to be keep chasing it more and more and more. And the third thing that a wealthy person who's enlightened is going to do is they're going to have a certain amount of generosity, that they're going to be practicing giving and sharing with other people. What the mind does with its sensual desire, with its craving, desire, attachment, is it tends to be selfish. It wants things to be self-satisfying, and it doesn't want to share with other people. And that's one of the practices that the Buddha teaches you, is to practice generosity, where you're giving and sharing with other people. And this is what's going to help your mind to let go. Not only the meditation, not only practicing cutting off and letting go in the moment, but practicing generosity, where you're giving and sharing without any expectation of anything in return. So you can pursue increased levels of wealth, but you need to be able to do that without craving, desire, attachment, where you have this unquenchable thirst, where there's never enough, right? You're just always wanting more and more and more and more. And you look at your bank account balance and you get so happy, but then your bank account balance goes down and you're sad and you're frustrated and you're agitated. This shows you that you're attached to money. And what it would be wise for you to do is start sharing it with other people. And it can just be small amounts. It doesn't have to be huge, but like, that's why in Thailand, there's like donation boxes pretty much everywhere you go in different stores and stuff, that you can just put 10 baht, 20 baht, 10 baht. And if you do that 3, 4, 5 times a day, maybe it's 100 baht, 200 baht that you've shared with other people. But each time you do that, you're having to let go and let go and let go. So the frequency of training the mind to let go is more important than the amount. So you would like to frequently be training your mind to let go if you're attached to money, because this is a common one that people are attached to. So yeah, you can pursue wealth. Just do it wisely without craving, desire, attachment, and share it with other people. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm thinking about after her question. So otherwise, if we not spending a lot, does that will affect the economics?
I'm sorry. Can you say that again? I didn't quite hear you.
So otherwise, if we chase this peaceful mind, spending less, does that affect the economics?
Okay, so if people were pursuing enlightenment, would that affect the economy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would, because in an economy, in a population of people where there's a lot of craving, there's going to be a very flourishing economy. But if you understand that money is not what leads to happiness, then you don't have to live in a flourishing economy where money is just busting out of the seams in order to live a wonderful life. In fact, in those kinds of places, you will typically find the least happy people because they're chasing money. So there's places in the world that do have a very flourishing economy, but you're going to see that there's massive amounts of craving, and there's also massive amounts of unhappiness in those cultures. You come to a place like Thailand where people are quite peaceful and quite joyful. The economy doesn't turn over as quickly, but you'll see that people are much more happy and much more peaceful because they're not chasing after money. So oftentimes people are in the unenlightened state. What they're doing is they're basing their inner feelings on external things. If we have certain material possessions, they're happy, but those material possessions are not permanent. So when they don't have those material possessions, now they're frustrated, or agitated, or annoyed. So while you need money and you need food, clothing, shelter, and medical care, you don't have to have gobs and gobs and gobs of it. And even if you do, that's not what's going to lead to your happiness. So it's important to see that, yes, by having less craving, the economy won't turn over as much, and that's okay. There's no harm in that.
Thank you.
One of the things I'll add to this is sometimes what we think about in the unenlightened state is we measure our success based on our bank account, right? If we have a certain level of bank account, we think we're successful. Where what I would encourage people to do is reorganize and shift your perspective of what it means to be successful. That success doesn't mean you have a lot of money. Success means that you have harmonious relationships. If you can have harmonious relationships with the people around you, you will be wildly successful. And I would say that you'll never have to worry about money, because if you can have thousands and thousands and thousands of harmonious relationships, people will always be willing to help you in your business or your professional life or whatever it is. But if you're just chasing money, you're not going to have very many people around you, because people see your greed and they're not interested in being around that. So if we shift our perspective of how we think about success, where we don't measure it through our bank account and our wealth, but instead you look at success as if you're able to have harmonious relationships, now you can see what your real goal in this life is not to chase money, even though you're going to need a certain amount of that. Your goal in life isn't to chase money. Your goal in life is to cultivate wisdom within your own mind and develop harmonious relationships around you. And if you focus on that, you'll never have to worry about money.
Yeah, I guess it's not really about, personally, it's about success, about money, the balance in the bank account, is sense of security. It's really depends on the society you live in.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. If you could maybe hold the mic up a little bit more.
Sorry. How about now?
Yeah, I think that's much better.
I guess I'm thinking about the bank, on the balance in the bank account is about the sense of security, and the feeling is really about when it depends on which kind of society you are living. It's really influence a lot.
Yeah, that's the mind's attachment. That's the mind. If I have a certain amount in my bank account, I will feel secure. But when my bank account goes below that, I don't feel secure anymore. That's the mind attached to the money. Now their mind, an individual's mind, is forming its feelings based on that money. Where your security comes in is through making wise decisions. If you understand the natural law of karma, of cause and effect, or action and result, when you make decisions wisely, you will experience wholesome results or wholesome karma. And you understand when you make decisions unwisely, you will experience unwholesome results or unwholesome karma. Everything you experience in life is based on your decisions. So if you understand that your security is going to come through wise decision making, that's what's going to create security in your life, then you cultivate wisdom and make wiser and wiser decisions, and you'll be plenty secure. You can get to the point where everything in your life feels secure, and it doesn't matter what your bank account is. Because if your bank account, if you feel safe when you have $5,000 in your account, you'll feel safe for a period of time, but then you'll stop feeling safe and you're going to want 8,000. And then you're going to stop feeling safe with that, and you're going to want more and more and more, because that's the mind attaching its feelings to this money. Where when you are able to train your mind to eliminate that attachment, you can get to the point where you can feel safe no matter what your bank account balance is, because you understand that it's your own wise decision making that's going to produce wholesome results, and it's your unwise decision making that's going to produce unwholesome results. And that's where your lack of safety would come from, is through any unwise decisions you make. Whereas if you went out into the world and you were bitter, harsh, and hostile with people and aggressive with people, you're not going to be very safe, because people are going to want to fight you and hurt you. Whereas if you go out into the world being polite, kind, friendly, respectful with people and practicing all the teachings of the Buddha, this is where you'll see you'll have very rewarding and satisfying and sustaining, fulfilling relationships. And now being harmonious with all the beings around you, you won't have anything coming at you that is harmful. But as long as you're putting out harm, or an individual chooses to put out harm, then that harm is going to come back to them. So you need to be able to learn how to not cause harm to others through your intentions, speech, and actions, and your livelihood. And that's where you won't experience any harm coming back to you. But as long as an individual lacks the wisdom of how to do that, then they're going to be causing some amount of harm, and then harm's going to come back to them. And they might think that turning to money is going to create the safety, but it's not the money that's going to create the safety. It's cultivating the wisdom of how to not harm others, that then you won't be harming others, so therefore harm won't come back to you. And that's where the safety is.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. You have a question? Yes, sir. I think the mic, is the mic on? I think it might be on. The batteries might just be a little weak. No, it's not on. Yeah.
Okay.
There
Okay.
you go.
I have a problem with my family, with my father and mother, and they treated me very well. They looked after me very well, and I listened to them. I studied very hard. I studied for many years, and so they have high expectation for me. And they also want me to be on the right track, but I don't think this track is right, especially when I'm from China, especially when the whole country's economy goes down or goes slowly. I think nothing is stable, nothing is permanent. So I don't like the way they want me to do. But now I can restrain my feeling. But is it a little bit cruel for my parents? Yes, or should I teach them to restrain their feelings, to restrain their mind?
Okay, so your parents are doing something typical that the unenlightened mind will do,
Yes.
which is form wants and expectations within their own mind about the outside world. And they think if this outside world does things my way, then I will be happy. So that's why they're imposing their expectations and wants on you. And they're thinking if you do things their way, they're going to be happy. But that happiness is only going to be temporary, because once you do the things that they want you to do now, then they're going to want more. They're going to want more. They're going to want more. So you need to be able to identify that what your parents are experiencing is this central desire. This is the craving, the desire, the attachment. If I get what I want, which is my son doing this, then I'll be happy. But their happiness is only going to be temporary, because it's conditional. It's based on you. It's based on, in order to get to permanent happiness, it has to come from within, and their mind doesn't understand that. And if you don't do what they want you to do, they're getting angry and frustrated, and they think it's you that's causing it. So they're going to just keep pressuring you and trying to get you to do things their way, because they think that's the way to their happiness. But this is their lack of wisdom. So you need to be able to just acknowledge this within your own mind, that this is their expectations, this is their wants, and you don't have to conform to that, because you have your life and they have their life, and they get to live their life and they get to make decisions about their life, but they don't get to make decisions about your life. You make your own decisions. You're an adult. So they're not going to understand that. And you don't necessarily have to teach them this. The way you teach it to them is you don't try to conform to their expectations. Whenever they're like, hey, son, we want you to do this. We want you to do this. We want you to do that. We want you to do this. You can just smile if you like and walk away. You could say, Mom, Dad, I understand that's what you want, but that's not what I'm interested in. And my goal in life is not to meet your expectations. Right? I said this to my family. I learned this early in life. When I was 17 years old, I was hanging out with my guy friends a lot. And my family came to me and they said, hey, David, you're spending too much time with your guy friends. You need to be spending time with a girlfriend. You need to get a girlfriend. I thought about it for a few months and I was like, okay, let me get a girlfriend. So I went and got a girlfriend. I started spending time with her. And they came to me and they said, hey, David, you're spending too much time with your girlfriend. You need to be spending time with us. And I was like, man, you can't make these people happy, right? So I just stopped trying to meet their expectations. So when they started putting more and more expectations on me, I just ignored them. And I just did things my way. And my life got more and more peaceful, right? Because as long as I was trying to live up to their expectations, I was always short of their expectations. And you're working. Even if you meet their expectations, they'll be happy for a period of time. So when I went and got a girlfriend, they were happy for a few weeks, but then they wanted something else, right? Because their expectations are impermanent, right? So you need to be able to acknowledge in your own mind that your parents are trying to form their happiness through you, and that's never going to be permanent for them. And you just ignore what they're saying. You can listen to it because maybe they have certain suggestions that could be beneficial for you, but don't conform to it. Because see, we grow up with parents like a little kid and we look to them for everything, for food, clothing, shelter, and medical care. They're providing all this stuff for us. So we get attached to our parents, right? Because we need these things and we want these things. But then when we get older, our mind hasn't changed and realized like, hey, you're an adult now. You can provide for yourself. You don't have to rely on them for these kinds of things, I don't think, right? You can get these things yourself, right? So don't feel like you have to meet their expectations. And if they get angry that you're not doing things their way, they're causing their own anger. You're not causing their anger. They're causing it themselves. So do what you think is best in the world. They might have an idea of what they think is great, but that's just their idea. You do what you think is best, and then you'll feel fulfilled. You're never going to feel like you're living a fulfilling life if you're just doing what other people want you to do. You'll never feel fulfilled that way. Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, ma'am. If you could get a microphone, that'd be great. We have plenty of people joining us online.
About this topic, and if you satisfy your parents and they are disappointed about you, and it must maybe you not maybe it must be happening there. You don't have a good relationship with them, and for me, I will feel disconnected with them. So how can I handle this? Sometimes I will feel sad because my parents disappointed and we don't talk too much, and they don't like me, and I feel disconnected.
Okay.
Yeah.
That disappointment that they're experiencing is not coming from you. It's coming from them. They have certain expectations of things that they want from you. This is their selfishness. This is their selfish desires. I'm not saying this in a negative way, like degrading your parents. I'm just saying this is what all unenlightened minds do, is that we'll have certain cravings, desires, attachments, wants, expectations. And this is selfishness, where the mind wants to impose its expectations on other people. And if you meet my expectations, I will like you. But then when you don't meet my expectations, this person will dislike you. right? This is the mind's own selfishness. So that disappointment that your parents are experiencing, that's not coming from you. That's coming from their own expectations because they want you to be a certain way. And that's not wise. That's not loving and kind and compassionate. That is the selfishness of the mind that it has in the unenlightened state. So if they're experiencing disappointment, that's on them. You need to live your life. They need to let go of their expectations. Otherwise, they're going to continue to be disappointed in you. So my son, he's 12 years old. I've never been disappointed in him my entire life because I don't have an expectation of him. He does things the way he would like to do them. I guide him. I help him. I give him suggestions. I assist him in the things that he needs to do in order to learn and grow and develop. But he makes his own decisions. It's not up to me to decide how his life should go. And it's not up to your parents to decide how your life should be. But they don't understand that. And as long as they have that lack of understanding, they will continue to be disappointed. And it's not until they let go of their expectations that you guys will then be able to form a wonderful relationship. You can't force a relationship with your parents. They need to choose to have a relationship with you, and they need to choose to eliminate their expectations. As long as they hold on to those expectations, they won't ever be able to have a loving and warm and gentle relationship with you, because in their mind, and this is other parents too, they can only have a loving relationship with you if you do things their way. That's not love. That's expectations. In their mind, they think it's love. They think that they know what's best for you, and they're going to try to force you to do things their way. That's not love. That's their mind's selfishness. And you need to be able to just see it what it is and train your mind to be comfortable that you stand ready to have a relationship with them. But you can only have a healthy relationship with them if that's what they choose. As long as they choose to hold on to these expectations, you can't have a healthy relationship with them. It's not possible. Now, what you can do is you can buy your parents a book, although they might not read English. I don't know. If somebody would like to translate it to Chinese, you're welcome to translate it to Chinese. Maybe you give them a book as a gift. You say, here, Mom and Dad, I'd like you to have this as a gift. But then you can't be attached to whether or not they read it and whether or not they practice it. But that's what they need to learn because they're lacking the wisdom of this. Even you're lacking this wisdom because you think in your mind that you're the one disappointing your parents. And you might even feel guilty or shameful about that. But that's because you've adopted their expectations as your expectations of yourself. You need to get rid of those expectations and realize that that's from them. It doesn't have to be your expectations of yourself. You can get rid of that because as long as someone sets expectations for you and you adopt those within your own mind, when you're not fulfilling those, you'll feel guilty and shameful. But that's because of your cravings, desires, attachments. It's because of your sensual desire, wanting to fulfill their expectations. You got to break free of that because it's like chains binding you to doing things this person's way. When you can break free of that and you can get liberated from it, and that's what the Buddha's training and teaching will help you to do through meditation and other techniques. I know you guys face this. It's very common in the world that parents put expectations on their children. And the thing is they think that's their love, but they just don't understand. Right?
Something similar is, we have a question is, so for example, if we come to Thailand and we take a break, we can learn to do these things, try to let things go. But if we go back to work, sometimes you have to do things in a certain way in order to survive. For example, you have to join a gossip group or else you'll be left out and eventually you'll be phased out. So the question is, I mean, sort of like this work-life balance, or at this stage, I mean, if you're faced with these kind of situations, like how do you mentally prepare for these? I mean, I want to say I can just let it go, but then I'll lose my job. I won't be able to support myself. And so I mean, so how do you kind of strike a balance if you are faced with all these sort of, uneasy or whatever situations, but you have to do it to survive?
This is exactly what the Buddha is teaching you, is to strike a balance. Gossiping and slandering people and conforming to what other people do in society, that's not the balance. that's conforming to all the unwise and unwholesome things that other people are doing, right? So you can come to the middle and train your mind. You can be in a professional world and practice these teachings. If you have a craving to be in the in crowd and be with the group, and you're not in the group, yeah, you're going to have painful feelings. You're going to feel like something's wrong with that. But you can practice these teachings in a professional world and you'll actually be wildly successful. If you're around, or if you're in a company now that has a massive amount of gossip, you might need to switch companies and not be attached to that company, right? Because I worked in the professional field at one time, and I was practicing these teachings, and I was wildly successful in the professional field by practicing these teachings. You might need to find a certain environment that you feel that is conducive to you practicing these teachings, because being around a bunch of people that are gossiping and slandering, this is, not wise. And if you're going to stay in your current company and you choose to step away from the gossiping crowd, well, they're going to gossip about you for a while, right? Because that's what you were doing. You were gossiping about other people. And now that's your gamma, or some people call it karma. Whatever you put out is going to come back to you. So you're going to need to walk through those painful experiences where you've put out a certain amount of gossip and slander. And now when you get away from it, they're going to gossip and slander about you, but you can keep on going and getting more and more to the point where you're practicing these teachings, and you'll live a wonderful life. You'll be wildly successful. When I was in business, I was successful both relationship wise, but I was also successful financially too. Very successful. And then I chose to, step away from that and be able to share these teachings, because I know that this is the best thing that I can ever do for the world. Right now, you can't see a way to be in business and practice these teachings, because one, you don't know the teachings 100%, right? You haven't studied them deeply. Two, you've never learned them to then be able to practice them in the work environment. But from somebody who has done that, I can share with you that it's absolutely possible for you to do this, but you're going to need to first cultivate the wisdom of what the teachings are, and then learn how to practice them. And part of that is you're going to need to be not attached to being in the in crowd, because those individuals that are gossiping and slandering, there's nothing beneficial there whatsoever. You might be thinking of it as beneficial to be in the in crowd, but ultimately that all collapses. People get frustrated and agitated and annoyed and has all kinds of difficulties. You can rise above that, and you can get to a point where you're conducting yourself more wisely, more professionally, and you can advance in the world. But as long as you're in that gossiping crowd, you'll be bogged down and held down by that. But you can get beyond that. But you need to first start with learning the teachings. So if you would like to do that, you can download this book for free. You can print it. You can get printed versions. It's up to you. But if you learn and practice slowly but surely, I can give you the guidance that you need to move towards wiser decision making in your professional life. You don't have to be in the gossiping crowd. That's not required to be successful in life. Otherwise, every single person in the world would be gossiping and doing those same kinds of things. That's not what it takes to be successful. In fact, in my opinion, that's hindering someone from being successful. But you need to be able to see that truth for yourself. You can't just believe me. You need to be able to learn and practice to see it for yourself. Okay, I think this is all the questions. Chris, I see you have some more questions there. I think what I'm going to do is in class here, and if you would like to stick around, I'll answer your questions after class, because right now it's basically about 11 o'clock. So I'm going to end class here by just thanking all of you guys for the great discussion. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your interest to learn. And if you guys would like to learn more, there's classes on Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And then I sometimes teach courses and stuff like this Monday through Friday, certain retreats. You can see it on the bulletin board over there. You can also see it on our website as well. And whether you're here in Chiang Mai or you're traveling, you can still attend classes here because we live stream things. So thank you all, and whatever you choose to do today, have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee krap. Jai jian. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.